Hey, my name is Super Stinson, and I'm back with another video. I don't see why I'm on my coryxkenshin day because he the best YouTuber to me, but I just act like him. But it's crazy. So if y'all know what Spooky Scary Sunday is, I'm copying off of him. Just to let y'all know that. Well, if y'all know what Spooky Scary Sunday is, it's all about, if y'all watch coryxkenshin, just go watch him. I don't care. Y'all could skip this. Y'all could skip out this intro. No, not the intro. I'm sorry. I just want to click the video. Okay, before I even get it started, grab some snacks because, got me some peanut butter cookies, 6 roll. Why I'm trying to act like coryxkenshin today. Give you the tallest water bottle that I've seen. Bigger than my head, of course. And maybe you warm up a TV dinner. I don't know. That could be a snack. Alright. Well, all that been said, first video. True poo store in a mix.
This happened when I was about 11.
That dude out there drowning. That's damn. I'm sorry.
This happened when I was about 11. My 2 friends and I, all of us male, were swimming in my friend's backyard one night around 10 p.m. My friend's house borders the junior high school property and is separated by a chain-link fence. As we were swimming, I look over and I see a tall man dressed in black and a baseball cap just standing there like a zombie just watching us.
Oh my God.
For some reason, I didn't get scared. I just thought it was weird. I mentioned him to my friends, who both look over and immediately start screaming their heads off and start swimming away to get out of the pool. Their reaction woke me up to the situation, and I started swimming out of the pool too. We are one by one trying to use the ladder, and I was in the rear, so as I'm waiting, I look over and the guy is scrambling up the fence as fast as he can. We made it to the house and managed to slam the door and lock it just as he reaches the door. This was the back door, which was like 80% clear glass, so he just stood there looking at us as we screamed our heads off. I even noticed he was holding a baseball bat. We run and hide behind the living room couch, and he keeps jiggling with the doorknob.
It's stupid. It's stupid. And one thing I gotta say, if y'all saw that one video that I made with Hide Online, that had to go seek game that I download, it's a good game. But please make sure y'all subscribe to this video too. Hit all the like buttons on this video. I wish I had 1,000K. I wish I had 1K like at least.
But luckily, he never used the bat to break the glass, which would have been really easy. He walks away and my friend runs and turns the security alarm on and calls his dad, who was off running errands. My friend's dad said he was almost home and to stay inside. We turn the TV on and start to calm down, when all of a sudden, the alarm goes off. I almost shit my swimming suit for the second time, and our stupid 11-year-old minds decide just standing there screaming was the best option. My friend's dad happened to get home while this is happening. He gives the operator the secret password that everything is okay, grabs his gun and searches the property, but he didn't find anyone. We still swam at night after that, and we never met that crazy guy again. Also, I'm 25 now, and I don't know why we didn't just call the cops or why my friend's dad didn't call the cops.
Alright, let me play that one.
This happened around the year 2011, when I was 13. One day my friend was planning on throwing a party at his place, so my older cousin drove me there. It took about 4 hours to get there, and when I finally arrived, it was around 8 p.m. A few hours later, we were having fun, but out of nowhere, I had to use the bathroom really badly. About 5 minutes had passed, and while I was in the bathroom, I heard a crunching noise coming from the woods. At first, I thought it was someone who arrived late to the party, but all of a sudden I heard loud banging on the glass. I started to think it might be my friend just looking for me, so I told him that I was inside the bathroom. However, it wasn't my friend. It was a guy who looked like he was in his late 50s. He said that his car broke down. He then asked me to help him, but I was already paranoid about strangers, so I simply told him that I couldn't help him. He nodded his head and walked away. When I was done using the bathroom, I went back to the room where my friend was. I told him what I saw and what the man said to me. My friend looked like he just saw a ghost. Then he finally said that for almost 2 months, this man was stalking his entire family, and also saw him from the bathroom window tons of times. They asked the police to check their area several times, but they couldn't help his family. When he said that, I thought he was overreacting, until I heard the same.
That just made me mad. You know you got young people. Not even helping them. That's a shame.
Banging noise now coming from the door. It was more violent now. Everybody paused what they were doing and looked at the door in shock. One guest broke the silence and said it was probably only the pizza delivery man. But my friend told me not to answer the door at all costs. I looked through the peephole, and there he was. The same guy I saw through the bathroom's window. He had a psychotic-looking face and was licking his lips nonstop. We all just stood there in silence and hoped that the man would go away. But after a few minutes,
Y'all got to do something real quick. Okay, that was all.
a loud noise came from the basement. The guy threw a brick at the basement's window and crawled through it. Suddenly, it sounded as if a gunshot echoed through the entire house. My friend and most of the partygoers screamed and ran out of the house. I stayed behind along with a few others. One of the older kids was trained in martial arts, so I saw him assault and attack the man until he was shot. Afterward, the man escaped and ran into the woods. The whole scene was chaotic now. An ambulance and police car arrived soon after, and fortunately, the kid that was shot survived. After a few days of intense investigation, the police went to my friend's house and told him that they caught the guy. It turns out that he was living in the woods. He also kidnapped 3 kids, but luckily they were found in time and set free. But they also found out that he had already killed a few kids already. So after that, he was condemned to death for murder.
True, what the what? I know they ain't say no clown, bruh. If it's a clown, you really gonna get scared now. I heard a strange voice in my room. Okay.
We used to live in a 2-story.
I sent it to coryxkenshin, but I never seen it.
This happened a while back when I was 11. We used to live in a 2-story house with the second floor being a wooden floor. There's a slight crack on the floor, so if anyone steps on it, it creaks. And one night, I woke up at around 1 a.m. The moment I opened my eyes, I heard heavy footsteps behind me as my body was facing the wall. My bed was next to the wall and my computer was by my head. My door was always open since I never close it when I go to bed. At first, I was confused about why there were heavy footsteps with chains dragging on the floor. The heavy steps sounded as if it stepped on the floor's crack. I heard the floor creak. The footsteps seemed to fade away to the end of the hallway to my uncle's room. It creeped me out and I couldn't move my body. I just stared at the wall in fear, then closed my eyes. Soon after, that noise came back to my room slowly. I heard the creak again, and all of a sudden, the chains whipped the floor door. That sound was so loud, so I opened my eyes for a few seconds in fright, but closed it again. I said to myself that it was all a dream, and it was nothing. It became silent until I heard a loud smash on the keyboard that's right by my head. I screamed, but kept closing my eyes forcefully. Suddenly, one of the deep voices started murmuring loudly just above my head. Its sound was so low beyond recognition, so I couldn't understand what the thing was. Then I started to pray to God. I was not honest and trustworthy back then, but praying was the only way to erase my fear. So I kept praying, and surprisingly, the voice faded away. The next day, I told my family about what happened, and they were surprised. I was given a rosary by a relative as protection, and she told me not to take it off. So ever since then, I've been wearing it. However, just a month after that, around 3 a.m., I was sleeping and suddenly, my rosary fell and shattered into pieces on the floor. I jumped out of my bed immediately when it happened. I was so confused, but I didn't want to check on what could have caused it. So I decided to go back to sleep and just collect the scattered pieces of the rosary when I woke up. The next morning, I told my family about it again, and they got really scared because it was really unusual. But they couldn't do anything about it. So they just tried to cheer me up.
One thing I'm saying is,
Nothing has really happened since then.
how the demon gonna touch it and they don't like it? Cause I'm pretty sure they gonna be burned by that, I think, when they touch it. But still, I don't get it. I just don't get it.
But I always wonder what would have happened if I opened my eyes to look right above my head to see who or what that deep voice was.
She got me burned. She just got killed. Don't play how to go seek in the forest. Oh God, oh. I would never play, bruh. I'm black. So
This happened a couple of years ago. One night, my mom decided to hang out with her friends at a casino, and my dad was at work. So my 2 older sisters and I were home by ourselves. My sisters were 14 and 15 at the time, and I was 11. After my mom left, it was pretty exciting to be home by ourselves. But an hour later, it got boring. So we decided to play a game. We ended up playing hide and seek. At that point, I was a bit scared because it was 11 p.m., almost midnight. But then I kind of brushed it off since I thought my dad would come home soon. I didn't want to admit that I was scared. Also, I don't want to be home alone, so I decided to play. Let's just play hide and seek in the backyard, I suggested, but she refused. There are no hiding spots back there. Let's go to the forest, my sister said. After my sister said that, shivers went down my spine. But anyway, we stepped into the forest that's nearby. Go count, my second older sister said to me. I decided that I had to be brave. My other sister gave me a blindfold. What is this for? I asked. Put it on and try to find us, my sister said.
Why is they making a little girl want to do blindfold? Like, I don't know if she said she want to be it, but I want to know why they made her be the seeker. Because she could get kidnapped easy without blindfold herself.
While my sisters used flashlights to find a place to hide, I put the blindfold on and then counted to 30. When it was time, I said, ready or not, here I come. After walking around, touching every tree I walked by, 10 minutes had already passed, and I still hadn't found my sisters. Even while I was walking on this trail, I could barely see anything, so I tripped on a twig and fell. My clothes got dirty and my knees started bleeding. But I had no choice. I got up and walked around some more. I came across a tree and knew I finally found something. It felt like a person. Haha, found you, I said. I then heard my sisters walking by behind me, saying, Hey, how did you not find us yet? At that moment, I froze. I took off my blindfold slowly and saw an old man sitting there smiling at me while holding a knife. Can't I play with y'all? He asked, with a cracking voice. He wore a dirty shirt, and his hair seemed like he didn't shower for a long time. My sisters and I screamed and started running out of the forest as quickly as we could. While running, I looked back and noticed the man chasing after us while holding the knife, swinging it in the air. He was laughing like a mad person. I've never felt that kind of fear before. But after running for a while, the old man couldn't keep up. He stopped running, stared at us, and then he turned around and went back into the forest. We got closer to our house, and then we saw our dad pulling into the driveway. We ran to him and told him what just happened. He was shocked, so he called the police immediately. The police went to the forest and they searched those areas for a few hours. After a while, they found and arrested the old man. The next day, we learned that the old man killed 4 female children and dumped their bodies in the woods. All the local news stations were covering the incident. When I heard that, I felt sick to my stomach. I am glad that we are safe, but now I pray for the 4 souls of the children. May they rest in peace.
Yeah, I hope they do too. So, what's this one? I don't get all of them.
I have a sister who got married when she was 18. She had a daughter named Susie. Her husband was unemployed. She had to work 2 jobs to support herself, her daughter, and her husband. Every day, she left the house at 8 a.m., and she only returned around 8 p.m. every night. Around this time, Susie had an imaginary friend. She told my sister it was a little girl named Jessica. Susie would talk about her all the time. My sister even overheard her talking to Jessica.
Boy, kids have imaginary friends.
It creeped her out, and after a while, she told Susie she was forbidden to talk about the girl. We weren't allowed to mention Jessica when we came over to visit. One day, Susie told her mom, Jessica is mad at you because you don't believe she's real. She comes to play with me when Daddy closes the closet door after you leave, and he lets us out before you come home. My sister had no idea this was happening. Her husband was supposed to be watching Susie during the day. Instead, he would lock her in the closet with a box of cereal and leave her there all day. When my sister discovered what was going on, she kicked her husband out. The poor little girl spent so much time all alone, locked in a closet that she had conjured up an imaginary playmate for herself. My sister divorced her husband and got custody of Susie. She decided to move out of the house they were renting. When the moving van came, the old man who owned the house came over to help them. He was talking to my sister and said, "I was always worried about your little girl on those basement stairs. My granddaughter fell down those basement stairs and broke her neck. She died in front of the closet down there." When she heard that, my sister got the chills. "What was her name?" she asked. "It wasn't Jessica, was it?" The old man looked at her and said, "Her name was Jessica. She was only 4 years old. She couldn't say it properly. And how did you know that's how she said her name, Jessica? How did you know?" My sister was in denial. She told him she didn't know what he was talking about. She refused to talk about it, grabbed the last of her things, and left the house for good. Even today, we're still not allowed to talk about Susie and her imaginary friend, Jessica. My sister remarried a few years later, and Susie got her a great new stepdad. But Susie, when we speak alone, she always brings up that little girl and what she looked like. And it still creeps me out to this day, because I don't really believe in that type of stuff with ghosts and paranormal, but there's no way that Susie could have known about that little girl. But who knows? Maybe they are real, and maybe not.
Okay, that story wasn't bad, but I heard my mom speaking at night. And what did he see then? Demons, that's why. I mean, I don't know, it could.
Every night, I hear my mother through the walls, but she never talks during the day.
Okay. I don't like how people just start the story. They be like, "Oh yeah, this is what happened here," or something. You can't say your name and your age first. You can't just say, "Hi, my name is something, and I'm something, and this one." I would have liked it, but she just said, I just always hear my mama scream. Hear her mama speaking to somebody. Like, dang.
Only at night. Like clockwork, she begins at midnight and abruptly stops at 6 a.m. I've heard everything, from harsh whispers, playful talking, cackling, and even screaming. Some of the things I hear her say frighten me. It's about dark and dreadful things. Whenever I enter her room to check on her, the silence is there. She just rocks in her chair. This is enough. I can't take it anymore. My mom has been suffering from seizures for the past few years, and they're getting worse. The doctor told me that she needed full-time care, so I volunteered. Even though she has always been estranged and I hadn't seen her in a decade, I knew she needed me. So I kinda thought it might be my last chance to stay with her. But it's gotten too much. She scares me. She doesn't even eat. I've tried and tried, but she doesn't open her mouth. I've tried to get her out of her bedroom, or at least out of her chair, but she gets aggressive. So whenever she needs a bath, I bathe her right where she sits. She just rocks in her chair, mindlessly smiling at her closet. She does this all day. I have no idea what I have to do next. I'm about to go insane. I can handle caring for her during the day, but at night, and talking. And I also told him that it's getting too much and she's starting to scare me. But his facial expression while looking towards me was weird. He stared at me like he didn't understand what I was talking about. And what the doctor said next scared me even more. Well, I think you had a bad dream. Your mother bit her tongue off a few years ago. She can't talk at
all. Okay, if she can't talk at all, then why does it say her tongue like this? Like the end of the tongue, so. True horror time. I said limp like a dummy. Anyway, that's a good story.
It happened when I was around 11 years old. One day, I was at my friend Kenzie's house. My other friend Emma joined us too. It was a lazy weekend, so we decided to kill some time by baking cookies and doing other things. We all gathered in Kenzie's room and did our geometry homework, which was the main reason we were all there. But soon after, we got bored doing it since we were young teenage girls. So we jumped on the bed, watched YouTube and Netflix, and told each other scary stories. The one I'll never forget is Kenzie's story. She told me a story that kept me paranoid for the rest of my stay at the house. She told us the owner of the house was found murdered in this house, and she sometimes feels like someone lives in her closet. A few hours later, Kenzie's parents said that they were going to a party and wouldn't be back until 6 in the morning. Kenzie didn't want to spend the night with her grandma and little sister, so she suggested that we should have a sleepover. It sounded...
Why was that? They were just spying on her. It was like they was doing this. And that's funny.
Like a great idea. So we just called each of our parents, and it took a lot of convincing to have the sleepover. When we got permission, we all changed into Kenzie's pajamas, got in bed, and watched something scary. It was almost 8 p.m. Kenzie's room was so messy, it almost looked like a pig's pen. So we decided that we would record a time-lapse of us cleaning. We were in the middle of cleaning the room when the doorbell suddenly rang. It was our pizza delivery. We all forgot to turn the camera off and left to eat. We just sat in the living room, ate, and talked for a while. After we finished eating the pizza, we went back to her room. I realized that we left the camera on. But as I reached to grab my phone, I felt something. I was anxious, even though her room was very silent. So I told my friends to come closer. We all stood there and watched the video. As soon as we left, the window opened slowly. There was a man who came inside, and then he ran into the bathroom. We all froze, knowing that someone was in the bathroom, which was connected to this room, but tried not to make any noise. Then Kenzie told us that we should all leave this room, so we did just that. We went to her grandma's room with her little sister. We immediately locked the door, called the police, and Kenzie's parents. Thankfully, the police arrived in less than 5 minutes. When they arrived at the house, they went to Kenzie's room and found the man. Near the sink was a gun and a pocket knife, and they arrested him. It turns out that he was put in jail last week for raping young girls and then murdering them. But he escaped prison and tried to find another victim. I couldn't help but imagine what would have happened if I didn't look at the footage on my camera. To this day, I hate going to sleepovers. Now I'm 16, and I heard that the man escaped again after killing the security guards. I hope he's not looking for me or my friends.
Okay, we got a few more stories to go, but okay, we gonna play this one. so it said it was.
This story takes place in South Africa, my home country. It happened last year during July, right after I turned 18. I had a 3-week holiday before I had to go back to school, and my sister decided to take me and a few friends to KwaZulu-Natal for a trip to a mountain range. It was me, my sister called Kate, and my 3 friends, Ashley, May, and Hannah. The last place we visited before we went to the cold mountain range was called Isandlwana, where the Shaka Zulu army fought Britain with many fatalities. We got to the place at around midnight, since there was no security. So we decided to explore the grounds and look at the thousands of graves placed around the land. It wasn't until after I asked to give it a rest and find a place to stay for the night that my sister pulled a box out of her bag. It was the infamous Ouija board. We used to believe in the paranormal side of the world, so all 5 of us decided to play. I mean, it was such a perfect place to do it. So we sat down by one of the bigger graves and started playing. But the board wasn't really doing anything until my sister lost her temper and took her fingers off. The keys started moving around in short circles before going over the letters and spelling out RUNTHEAREHERE. Run. They are here. At first, we were all kind of laughing. We weren't really scared because we'd had a crap ton of alcohol before playing the game and thought it was one of the girls doing it. However, all of a sudden, Ashley stood up, cried out in pain, and she claimed something was stabbing her. "Help! Help me!" she screamed. So we immediately stopped playing and went to help her. When she lifted up her shirt, we could see a long and deep scratch that went from where her heart is down to her stomach. We were all shocked, so we left the place in a hurry since the nearest clinic was over an hour away. When we arrived, our situation only got worse, considering we were a group of white girls who only knew how to speak English and a bit of Dutch, while everyone inside of the clinic was a Zulu native and didn't know any English. We couldn't get my friend any help, since neither we nor the nurses understood each other until we lifted up my friend's shirt to show them the wound. We felt so stuffy, and eventually one nurse sterilized her and bandaged her up. However, surprisingly, the next morning when we woke up inside of my sister's van, she was no longer wounded, and it was as if the event didn't even happen. Someone later told us that it might be a Zulu trademark to cut their enemies' hearts from their gut in respect of the body they had killed, preparing them for the afterlife. But who knows? Now, over a year later, none of us truly know what happened. I go to university, and they are still my only friends. The memory becomes more and more distant over time, and I sometimes believe that we all just hallucinated. But the one thing for sure is that I will never, ever touch the Ouija board again.
You better not touch the Ouija board before I come back in your house. And then you're gonna be spooky, man. For you to be touching everything. Okay, we got 3 more stories to go. Cause I know this so long, y'all know y'all like, okay, he making too much wansee entertainment.
I was 13 when this happened. My parents left on a business trip to LA, so I had to stay home. My dad gave me his card so that I could order whatever I needed, so I kinda enjoyed being alone. And I wasn't scared because I've been home alone so many times, and besides, it was only for 3 days.
I was breaking.
Well, this was around the time the clowns were breaking into houses and doing some weird stuff. But they never came to my area since they usually hit more quiet places, especially the area near a forest. Although we had a fence that could easily allow someone to climb over, we didn't really think much about it because the area where we lived in was very safe. Anyway, it was around 6 p.m., and this was in the winter, so it got dark pretty fast. We had a glass room at the back of the house, also known as a conservatory, and it leads straight to the garden. The room was right next to the kitchen. I got a little hungry, so I went to the fridge, took out some snacks, and went back to the living room to continue watching TV. There was a roof on the glass room that intensified any sound that landed on top of it, even the gentlest drop of water. That day, it was raining heavily, so it was too noisy to hear anything except the rainfalls pounding on the roof. About a few minutes later, I was quite sleepy, so I decided to go up to my room and lay down. I was about to grab my phone and check my social media, but then I heard something drop really hard on something downstairs. It really creeped me out. I got really scared, but decided to go downstairs to check, thinking that it would be nothing. So I came out of my room, went halfway down the staircase, and looked down the hallway. The whole area was dark, but I knew that someone was standing there. I quickly went to my room, trying not to make any noise. Then I heard someone walking around the living room. I immediately called the police and whispered to the operator that I needed help ASAP. But all of a sudden, I had a sneezing fit. I was so panicked at that moment, so I instantly ran to the bathroom since it was the only room with a lock. As I was reaching the bathroom, he sprinted up the stairs so fast. I locked the door and tried not to cry. The man tried to open the door. He kept turning the doorknob. The bathroom had a small blurry window, but I was able to see outside. So, just then, I got a glimpse of what was at the door. It was a clown with green...
Hey, y'all. Is this really trying to...
in hair.
If this really any happen, like, if this really happening, y'all, like, right now, like, every day, and I mean, every day, like, right now, just be like, I got the corona. I got the corona. Let me see. Just be like that. Then, like, I don't stay away from people. I stay away from people that got corona. I stay away from, I go towards them, I'll cough. I'm like, that's how I'm gonna do.
And without a nose. He was wearing a very weird outfit and was holding a gigantic knife. I had no other choice, so I quickly hopped inside the bath, opened the big window, and jumped out. I slid off the big roof and fell on the concrete. I couldn't even feel my injury because I was so scared. As I was about to hop on the fence, I heard the cops. They entered our house, and after that, they arrested and cuffed him. When he walked past me, I was so scared and my body was shivering. But I was glad that it was over. The police contacted my parents, so they came back home in a hurry. I would see them again, and I knew that I was safe now. From then on, I never stayed at home alone, and that clown guy was in prison for several years for scaring kids and for possible murder.
Oh. Okay. This video too long, I'm just laying out.
Download and install Bigfoot. Use custom crosshair for Call of Duty Mobile.
I know you get it. My mom. Ooh, she changed. I don't like people that change. Especially ladies.
First of all, I'm extremely worried about my mom. This year has been a turbulent one for the family, and I think her fragile psyche might just break. It began after my brother's death. Initially, my mom, dad, and I came together, and the family was stronger than ever. But as time went on, life got busy and the divide ensued. Mom craved constant emotional support, but it became overwhelming, and Dad was always tired from work and he was still grieving at the loss of his son, so it became too much to handle. After that, Mom began cutting herself and threatening her own suicide as a last-ditch effort to win my father's love and affection. But it was futile. With the signing of a few papers, a 20-year marriage evaporated. Mom went into a complete tailspin after their divorce. She stopped cooking, stopped cleaning, stopped bathing, and stopped talking. Everything was stopped. We lived in a house of silence until the nighttime when I could hear her howls of heartbreak echo through the home. I loved my mom, but I knew it wasn't healthy for me to stay in this situation. In the morning, I told her I wanted to go live with Dad, at least until she pulled herself together. For the first time in weeks, she spoke to me calmly. She told me that if I leave, she'll have nothing left to live for and kill herself. She was self-possessed, but her eyes were glancing. Mom, you need help, and, well, let's talk about it again when I get home, I told her. But she didn't reply at that time. I felt uncomfortable and sorry for her. When I arrived home from college, an eerie feeling crept over me. The entire house was pitch black, and my mom was nowhere in sight. I investigated the downstairs but found nothing. I checked her bedroom upstairs as well as the bathroom, but they were clear. I walked down the hallway to my room and saw a dimly lit candle on my desk. It was illuminating a note. I began reading and a chill ran up my spine after the first few words. This wasn't a note. It was a suicide letter. While reading continuously, my chest was pounding and I began to sweat. My heart sank deeper and tears flooded my eyes. That is until I reached the bottom of the letter. When I reached the final two words, I became frozen with fear, and the letter slipped from my moist grip. The final two words were simply a first and last name. It was my name. Suddenly, I felt the cold breeze from my door slamming shut behind me. The candle went out, the room went dark, and I could see her grin. That was the last.
So that means he did.
Summer of 1995 was the hottest summer in years. The single of the season was Seal's Kiss from a Rose.
On the anime story, and straight died. Alright, this is the last one, y'all. This is the last one. I know it's the one, y'all.
This happened when I was 17 years old. I was a senior in high school. It was the middle of the week, and my friends and I were chatting online about wanting to do something new and fun over the weekend. We usually just went to the movies, went to the mall, or got dinner, and I thought we should try something different. The next day, I was in the computer lab for one of my classes, and I had some time to kill because I finished my assignment early. Keep in mind, Snapchat and Instagram were just starting up and didn't have the same kind of popularity as it has today. So the only thing we really had at the time was Facebook. However, my school was strict and blocked Facebook, so the only thing I could really do was read articles on news websites. While searching and scrolling through the internet, an article showed up. It was about an interview with a man who was discussing the truth of paranormal activity around the area I grew up in. Intrigued, I read the article and looked up the places the guy was talking about. And sure enough, I found a bunch of things. One place in particular caught my eye. It was a place about 20 minutes away from where I lived. It was known to have multiple paranormal occurrences happen on the exact same road. As soon as class ended, I texted my friends about what I found. and we all agreed on going and seeing what this road was all about Friday night. Friday night finally arrived. It was me and 4 of my friends. Right before we entered the location, I parked my car and had my friend drive, because we believed that if a guy drove, not much would happen. So she drove my car while I was sitting in the passenger seat. While switching seats, my other friends put baby powder on the top of my car, because one of my other friends read that it helps people see when ghosts touch or brush your car. It started to drizzle a bit, which bummed us out because the baby powder would be washed away. As we were driving my car, we turned off the radio to make it more suspenseful. All of a sudden, we heard someone from a distance scream bloody murder. At that moment, I heard the sound of a car door trying to be opened, as if someone was aggressively trying to get into my car. After that, we saw a police car driving so fast with the sirens on, as if they were chasing someone on a major highway. The problem with that was the road was paper thin and had tons of sharp turns, so you couldn't go that fast without crashing into another car. Plus, the car didn't have any of the county police or trooper tags from the area I lived in. I knew that because my dad was a cop, and I saw all kinds of different cop tags in my lifetime. I was freaked out that those 2 things just occurred. We were all freaked out and drove to the nearest parking lot so that we could calm down. As we got out of the car, one of my friends started to freak out even more. The baby powder on the roof of my car was smeared, and it was all over my passenger seat side door. What was even more creepy was the fact that there were finger marks all over the door. Now, this wouldn't normally creep me out, but we were driving the entire time, and we all made sure not to touch the doors when entering the car. The strangest part was that the finger marks had no fingerprints, but were clearly shaped like a hand. It was as if someone was trying to reach for the door handle. Not only that, but we also noticed that there were fingernail claw marks on my door handle. This line and in person about that night and how it freaked us all out. Then someone sent me a link to an article about the street we drove on and all the activity that occurred on it. But it wasn't the one I originally read. It was a different one. As I was reading the website, I started to notice that all the things mentioned also happened to me the same exact way that night. But what freaks me out the most to this day is thinking about what would have happened if I didn't have my door locked. Would the door have opened up?
But why he twist his neck like that? That look weird. Okay, I'm gonna end it right there. Make sure y'all please subscribe, hit that like button, comment down below if y'all want me to react to some other animations, like not no wansee entertainment or Mama Arts, but like anything. Like, I never watched Crib TV. I mean, I know them, but I don't watch them like that. But okay, I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.